All right, good evening, everyone. Let's begin. So, Meretz Hashem, tonight is our pre-Rosh Hashana shiur. So, what I'd like to try to Meretz Hashem do over the course of the little bit of time that we have with each other is try to frame our experience for this Yom Tov, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do, and of course, you can't really capture the entirety of any Yom Tov just in one shiur. Every Yom Tov, and especially Rosh Hashana, is so multi-dimensional. There are so many facets, so many aspects, so many dynamics. Is Rosh Hashanah a day of fear? Is Rosh Hashanah a day of joy? Is Rosh Hashanah a day we should look forward to? Is Rosh Hashanah a day that we should be trembling for? And of course, the answer to all of these questions is yes and no. Rosh Hashanah has tremendous elements of fear. There is a mitzvah of simcha on Rosh Hashanah, right? As much as we spend a long time in shul, but at the end of the day, we also go home and have a celebratory meal. There is an element of feeling of confidence that exists on this Yom Tov, but yet a profound recognition, as the Gemara says, that kol ba'ei olam ovrim lefanav kibnei maron, that the entire world comes before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the entire world. Remember, Rosh Hashanah is not just for Jewish people. Rosh Hashanah is for all humanity. Rosh Hashanah is for all of creation. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally decides mi yichya u'mi yamos, who is going to live, who is going to die. Mi bekitzo, mi lo bekitzo, who in their appointed time, who in not in their appointed time. Mi anuach, mi anua, who is going to thrive and who is going to suffer. And again, everything we read about in Unisana Tokef, of course, is the fundamental reality. Yet with all of this, there is a profound sense of simcha, a profound sense of joy, because as we've spoken about, the God who is judging us is a Ribono Shel Olam who loves us so tremendously. But I'd like to focus on one specific area of Rosh Hashanah tonight, which is the shofar. The meaning of the shofar, the power of the shofar, and the message of the shofar. You know, I often find that during Tikiyah Shofar, especially, true on Chodesh Elul, but especially on Rosh Hashanah as well, is we feel moved. You can't not be moved by the sound of the shofar. But sometimes you could be moved, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm moved to, what I'm moved from, and where I'm moved to. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to react? What do I do with these particular kolos, and how do they transform me and propel me in a different life direction? So take a look at number one. Pasuk says, B'chodesh harishon be'echad lechodesh mikra kodesh yalachem, Komeleches avoda lo sasu yom terua yihiyeh lachem. So amazingly enough, this is the pasuk that speaks out Rosh Hashanah, right? The entire discussion that the Torah has regarding Rosh Hashanah is exactly this. On the 7th month, which is Tishrei, on the 1st of the month, Mikra Kodesh, it'll be a Yom Tov, a holy convocation. Komeleches avoda lo sasu. You can't do any malacha, you can't do any work. Yom terua. It will be a day of terua for you. By the way, that's it. That's it. That's the entire discussion about Rosh Hashanah. Nothing about judgment, nothing about the king, nothing about the throne, nothing about all the Torah tells me is Yom Teruah. Everything else that we have about Rosh Hashanah, about Rosh Hashanah being a day of judgment, about, again, all the different elements that we spoke about before, come from the Gemara, come from Chazal, come from the commentaries. If you want to know what the Torah Kedosha says about Rosh Hashanah, you have it. There it is. There's a couple of more psukim that talk about the karbanos, the sacrificial offerings that are offered. But in terms of what the day is, the Torah identifies Rosh Hashanah simply as a Yom Teruah. And by the way, of course, even that phrase itself is shrouded in so much ambiguity. What is a Teruah? What is a Teruah? Is a Teruah a Tekiyah? Is it a Shvarim? Is it a Teruah? Is it a Tekiyah? In other words, so we don't even know exactly what sound a Teruah is. So therefore, because we don't even know what it is, we sound 100 sounds. 100 sounds. Remember, again, on a biblical level, all you really have to do are 9 sounds. Right? You have to do Trua, Tekiyah 9 times. 3 times. Three sounds, 3 times. A total of 9 sounds. But because there's so much ambiguity as to what is a Trua. Is a Trua what we call a Trua, right? Or is a Trua a Shvarim? Or is a Trua a Shvarim and a Trua? So again, is the Shvarim Trua blown in 1 breath, 2 breaths? So because there's all this ambiguity, therefore we do all of it. We want to satisfy all the opinions. And that leads us ultimately again to the blowing of 100 kolos, 100 sounds. But this is it, which tells us something amazing. If this is the way that the Torah identifies this day, that Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Teruah, what that tells us is that anything and everything we need to be successful on this day, ultimately, again, could be understood in the shofar dynamic of the day. the entirety of Rosh Hashanah could somehow be captured in the essence of the shofar. So what is the essence of the shofar? So the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva writes in number 2 something very beautiful. The Rambam says, Afapi, shetkia shofar b'Rosh Hashanah gzeros hakosif. The Rambam says, even though, why do we blow shofar, right? Why do we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Why do we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Takwa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, blow the shofar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, blow the shofar. That's it. That's why we do it. So Rambam says the reason we do shofar, like the reason we do any other mitzvah, is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us to do it. But nevertheless, the Rambam says, Remez Yeshbo. There is a profound metaphor embodied. What's the metaphor of shofar? Kilomar, Uru Yeshenim Mishinaschem, V'nirdamim Hakitz Mitar Demaschem. Awake, sleepy ones, from your sleep, and slumbering ones from your slumber. V'chipsu b'maasechem, introspect. V'chazru b'tshuva, do tshuva. V'zirku barachem, and remember your Creator. So the Rambam understands essentially that what is shofar? Shofar is a spiritual alarm clock. Right, we go through life sleeping. We go through life asleep at the wheel. We go through life slumbering, right? Some of us are just in a light sleep. Some of us are in a deep sleep. Some of us is just sleeping for a couple of hours. Some of us have been asleep for a couple of decades. Some of us are just sleeping normally, and others have been hibernating for years. But the reality is, the nature of the condition of mankind is, we are all asleep to some degree. Says the Rambam, comes the shofar, and the shofar jars us awake. The shofar wakes us up. Uru yeshenim mishinaschem. Wake up, wake up. But what do you do when you wake up? Introspect. V'chipsu b'maasechem. Analyze, introspect about your actions. V'chazru b'tshuva, do tshuva. V'zirchu barachem, remember your Creator. Se'ela shochachem es ha'emes v'hevli azman. We often lose sight of the truth just because we get caught up in life. Remember again, the reason we make mistakes, we're all good people. We're all very good people. We're all very righteous people. So if we're so righteous, why do we make mistakes? Because we fall asleep at the wheel. We just kind of get caught up in the different realities of life, and we lose our way, we lose our focus, we lose our direction. And therefore, yes, you go, Asher lo yav lo yatzal bitu. Lefichach, skip a little bit. Tzarech kol adam shira atzmo kol hashana kula kilu chetziv zaka v'chetziv chayiv. So the Rambam goes on, the Rambam says, therefore, quoting the Gemara, therefore a person should always view themselves as half guilty and half innocent, or half righteous and half not righteous. In other words, the metaphor, and this is from the Gemara, is that a person is supposed to view themselves and view life like a set of scales. What do my scales look like in any given moment? What do they look like? What do they look like? They're even. Now that's good news, right? That's a good. Right? I was nervous, right? They're even. But what happens when the scales are even? Any one action tilts the scales in a different direction. So one Avera could chas v'shalom tilt the scale in the direction of Averas. One mitzvah could go and tilt the scales. And the Rambam says, what is true for us as individuals is also true on a global level. The world as a whole also has even scales. And so when I do something in my life, not only does it impact my scales, but it impacts global scales as well. In other words, what the Rambam is trying to highlight is, we often go through life thinking that we don't matter, or that what we do doesn't matter. And so, okay, whatever, I'm gonna allow myself to do certain things because, hey, what's the big deal? Who am I hurting except me? Well, first of all, hurting yourself is a big deal in and of itself, but it's not just you. It's not just you. Our actions have cosmic ramifications. Our actions have dramatic implications, repercussions, and ramifications. And the Rambam says, here's the problem, that all too often in life we fall asleep. We just fall asleep. Again, what's beautifully validating about this is, we often assume that the reason we commit averos is because we're bad. Chas v'shalom, we're not bad. We're just very tired. We're just very tired and often just snoozing our way through life. You know, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, it is a very, I don't remember which book it was in, but he had a very cute piece. He's talking about the dynamic of people falling asleep during rabbis' drashos. And he said he can never understand. I mean, okay, rabbis could speak for a long time, I got it. But he said, imagine for a moment, he's like, you get lost in a bad neighborhood. I said, you could say, this is a little bit dated. This is before Waze and Google Maps. You get lost in a bad neighborhood. You pull into a gas station and you ask the attendant, how do I get out of here? So Rabbi Torah says, can you imagine the attendant is giving you directions and you're like, You wouldn't nod off. Why don't you nod off? Because you recognize that like every single word that this person is giving you is necessary. Maybe it's life or death. Maybe it's just, but I need it, and you're hanging on to every word. Rabbi Twersky said, if we recognized that the words of Torah are really life-saving directions, then we wouldn't fall asleep. We wouldn't leave early. We wouldn't do this. We wouldn't do that, because we recognize that whatever it is, and even if it's not packaged in the best way, there's something in here that I need in order to live my life. I can't run out. I can't fall asleep. I need this. But just the nature of the human condition is we fall asleep. No, even though it's really important, and even though it's really necessary, and even though, again, I need the instructions and my life actions matter, we fall asleep at the wheel of life. The Rambam says the shofar is the spiritual alarm clock. It's what says, Uru yishenim mishinaschem. The shofar doesn't tell you to stop sinning. The shofar doesn't even tell you to start doing tshuva. That's not the first message. The shofar says, wake up. Wake up. Because if you don't wake up, you can go through life. You could go through life daydreaming. You could go through life half asleep and miss out on so many beautiful opportunities for self-actualization, for growth, for accomplishment, and you never even realize, I had that opportunity? Did that just happen? I didn't even realize it. And we don't even notice, we're cognizant of all the opportunities we miss. You know what the incredible reality is? There are so many more opportunities that we're not even cognizant of that we missed, because too often we're just asleep. And therefore, says the Rambam, the shofar comes along. The shofar comes along and says, just wake up. Let's start. Let's start by waking up. Because at least if I'm awake, then what could I do? I could look at my actions. I could introspect. I could remind myself that what I do or don't do has dramatic ramifications and implications, not just for me, but for the world as a whole. The dynamic of the shofar, says the Rambam, Uru yishenim mishinaschem. Wake up. Wake up. Stop slumbering through life. You know, it's interesting, and I can tell I'm getting old in many ways, but one of the ways I can tell I'm getting old, one of the things that drives me crazy, is when you hear, or when you see, maybe there are people related to me or not related to me, who sleep late. A person sleeps till 10 o'clock in the morning, till 11 o'clock in the morning. All right, if you're going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's one thing. But how does a person even allow that for themselves? Like, isn't there a piece of me? Isn't there a piece of me that's like, my kishkas are churning, like life is flying by. I don't know how much time I have here on this earth. I don't know what amount of time I have to accomplish. Every moment there's, again, doesn't mean that a person shouldn't sleep. We should all get enough sleep. We should take care of our health, of course. But there's this idea that like, it's okay to sleep. And of course it's okay to sleep. It's just not okay to sleep too much. Because if you habituate yourself to sleeping too much, then that becomes the way I live my life. And if that becomes the way I live my life, again, it's not an Avera. It's worse than an Avera. You know, an Avera, what's the good part of an Avera? You're like, what's the good part of an Avera? Where do I start? Right? The good part of an Avera is, I know it's an Avera, I know what I did wrong, and I know what I have to fix. Being hibernating through life, being asleep throughout life is terrible. Because when you look at it, are you doing anything wrong? No, it's not an Avera. I'm just missing out on life itself. So an Avera, at least I know it's bad, I know what I have to correct. Sleeping through life, I can justify it as I'm just really tired. I just need a lot of sleep, a lot of life sleep. And so the Rambam says, the shofar comes along and says, you gotta wake up. You have to live life. You have to introspect. What are you doing? How are you living? Where are you going? What's your plan? How do you want to maximize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you? And yes, how do you want to fix the stuff that's broken? So I was very intrigued by this idea of waking up. And how the Rambam really said, just so you understand, so now if we kind of take this back, so all the Torah tells us about Rosh Hashanah is waking up, right? There's no other discussion by Rosh Hashanah. There's no mention of tshuva, there's no mention of judgment, none of that stuff comes up. So that tells you that the only dynamic of Rosh Hashanah is shofar, which tells you on a very basic level that what is the entire avodah of Rosh Hashanah? The entire avodah of Rosh Hashanah? is waking up. That's it. That's why you'll notice again, there's no Hashamnu, Bagadnu, there's no Slichos, there's no Vidui, there's no confession. There's no confession on Rosh Hashanah. Right? There's not that. Even Avinu Malkeinu, there's a whole machlokas as to whether or not one should say that on Rosh Hashanah. And even those who say it on Rosh Hashanah, some take out the phrase, Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha. It's fascinating. My father, my king, I've sinned before you. The general custom is we keep it in, but some take it out because that's not Rosh Hashanah. That's a Sarasimi Tshuva, that's certainly Yom Kippur, but that's not Rosh Hashanah. So if Rosh Hashanah is not Tshuva, right? So we like to say, what's Rosh Hashanah? Being Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, coronating God. I don't know, not that anyone really knows what that means, actually, to coronate God. It sounds beautiful, they count me in. But what exactly does that mean? We'll come back to that. But Rosh Hashanah is a day, or 2 days, to wake up. To wake up. I don't want to sleep through life. I don't want to slumber through existence. You know, when everyone has that day, that moment where you realize how much time has gone by, and it's a little bit depressing because I recognize it's not like an age thing, but it's a recognition that I could know with absolute certainty I did not maximize my time, and I cannot get that back. So Rosh Hashanah is the day, the Avodah of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah. That's all the Torah says. Nothing about coronating God, nothing about Shuvah, nothing this. It's a day of shofar. What do you do with the shofar? I wake myself up. It's time to stop sleeping. And it's time to start thinking. Who am I? What have I done? What haven't I done? Who do I want to be? Introspection. Do I need tshuva? Don't I need tshuva? How do I do tshuva? What's my plan? So what's fascinating about this waking up dynamic is, we find it elsewhere. Take a look at number 3. The Shulchan Aruch writes, and this is the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Mamish, the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Yiskaber ka'ari la'amod baboker la'avodas baro. This is Siman Aleph halacha, the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch. First halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Get up in the morning like a lion to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Get up in the morning like a lion to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sheyehu ma'orer hashachar. I should awaken the dawn, and the dawn shouldn't awaken me. The first halacha in Shulchan Aruch, don't oversleep. Don't sleep in. Don't slumber. Get up in the morning, Yiskaber Ka'ari, to go ahead and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You wake up the dawn. Don't let the dawn wake you up. And Rabbi Nachman, in the Kuti Halachas, I share with you a little piece over here. The Rebbe has an incredible and beautiful interpretation. Now, he's commenting on this halakha in Shulchan Aruch, but I think we could take his idea and Emeretz Hashem apply it to Rosh Hashanah as well. So what the Rebbe writes, Ki Isa, right by, I'm in source number 4 now, Likutei Halachas, right by the Aleph. Ki Isa b'divrei Rabbeinu Zal, shekesha'adam maschil lechapes atzmo v'roshu rachok mo me'Hashem Yisbarach. Sometimes we introspect, we look inside ourselves, and I realize that I am so distant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No? We've all had this feeling. I wake up, I introspect, I look inside, and the truth is, I'm not fully happy with what I find. And I realize that I'm so distant from the Ribono Shel Olam. And I'm filled with sin. I'm filled with sin. And I'm so far from anything good. So Rabbi Nachman says something so incredibly beautiful. What do you do in that moment of introspection? I'm having a moment of real, I look inside myself and I'm so unhappy with what I found. I feel like I found sin. I found stuff that's broken. I found a bunch of schmutz. I found all different kinds of things. And I'm so profoundly unhappy with what I found. So Rabbi Nachman, this is incredible. Rabbi Nachman says, what should you do? What should you do in that moment? Look for something positive about yourself. Okay, you found all the broken stuff, found all the bad stuff. Now look for something positive. So you find something good. So I find something good about myself. And then when I begin to look at what that good thing is, what do I find? What do I find? That even my good is flawed. Even my good is flawed. Even the things that I've done, the mitzvahs, right, the Ma'asim Tovim, the Avodah, the Chesed that I've done, it's also faulty. So not only do I have a whole bunch of negative stuff, but even the good that I possess is not really good. The good that I possess is hollowed out. It's also flawed. Ki me'urav b'psolas harbe. The Rebbe says, okay, so search further in that mitzvah that you did. Even if the mitzvah as a whole is not great, is there something in that mitzvah that's pure? Can you pull out one spark of complete Kedusha? Can you find one element of that mitzvah that was absolutely pure and good? He goes on, yesh bo eza nekuda tova. So this piece of Rabbi Nachman is one of the most famous pieces, the Kutei Halachos Reish Pei Beis. And what the Rebbe here highlights is a dramatic approach to life. When you introspect and you find negative things about yourself, so often conventional wisdom is, you find negative stuff, what should you do? What should you do? See, all too often we think that the litmus test of a good Jew is how miserable you are, right? In other words, that the more upset I am at myself for what I've done, right? And the angrier I am at myself for what I've done, and the more just I feel the horrendous burden of my mistakes. That's a yid, right? That's depression. That's not. In other words, the Rebbe is describing over here something amazing. The Rebbe is saying when you find something broken inside yourself, you have to fix what's broken. But in order to fix that which is broken, you have to have confidence in yourself. You see, if I find stuff inside me that's in a state of disrepair, and now my avodah is to fix it, but if I'm going to fix it, I have to believe that I have the power to fix it. So where do I find the ability to believe in myself that I could fix that which is broken? And Rabbi Nachman posits, it's by finding the good. Identify good things in yourself. Because if I can identify good things in myself, that means that what? I have the tools to right the wrongs. I have the tools to fix that which is broken. It's a fundamentally opposite way of thinking. That when you encounter challenge, difficulty, broken kite inside of yourself, the avoda is not to dwell on that. I'm going to come back to that, push the pause button on that, and now I have to find the good. What's good inside of me? What's working inside of me? And the moment you find that good and you recognize it, my gosh, okay, Baruch Hashem, I've got a lot of problems, but I've also got a lot of stuff that's great. The finding of the beauty, the finding of the goodness, the finding of the Kedusha, that's what gives me the confidence to be able to repair that which is broken. Do you know why at the end of the day, most of us never become real Baalei Tshuva? We become like, for lack of a better term, like lipstick Baalei Tshuva, right? Like lipstick Baalei Tshuva, right? In other words, so you can put on a little bit of lipstick and it looks nice, great, it's fine, right? Whatever the rest of the outfit, it looks nice. I'm a lipstick Baalei Tshuva. I figured that would be a good metaphor for this year. Right? Good. I'm a lipstick Baalei Tshuva. That's it. Why is it that we never get traction? Deep down, it's because I don't really believe that I could change. I don't really believe that I could actually fix the stuff that's broken inside of me, especially many of us have stuff that's been broken for years. Some of us even decades. And if I haven't fixed it by now, come on, I'm not really going to fix it. And that's why the Rebbe says the first step to tshuva is believing in yourself. And the way you believe in yourself is not by focusing on that which is broken, but it's focusing on that which is positive. Again, not ignoring the negative. We're going to come back to the negative. We have to fix all that stuff. But to fix it, you have to believe in yourself. And to believe in yourself, you have to be able to see your good. Because when you see your good, you recognize, okay, I'm good. I can do great things. I can accomplish beautiful things. I can create incredible realities for myself, for my family, for my community, for my world. I have tools at my disposal. And if I have tools at my disposal, that means that I can make a difference. Look what the Rebbe says. Look, skip down a little bit to paragraph Beis. Still in source number 4. He says, this is beautiful. This idea of looking inside yourself and finding something positive, in Chassidus, this is referred to as waking up. Waking up. Rabbi Nachman says, when I feel so down on myself, and all I see are my averos, that's called sleep. That's called sleep. right? All I see is the negative. All I see that which is broken, and I don't feel any hope that I can pull myself out of this. That is being in a state of slumber. Remember, like the Chazal says, sleep is 1/60th of death. Death is ultimate paralysis. You can't do anything. When a person, all they see is their negativity, and all they see are their faults, and all they see is what's broken. That's like just like when you're asleep, you are inactive. You can't do anything. When a person solely focuses on the negative that they've done, the negative they possess, that's a state of slumber. Okay, shemechapes umevakesh umotzi ba'atz ezen nekudatova umechayim mesameches atzmo umeoras atzmatzmo ze bechinas hisorus me'ashena. And when you find something good about yourself, and you get yourself excited about you. You get yourself excited about who you are and what you are and the tools you have to accomplish great things. That's called awakening. So the state of sleep is when all you're focused on is what's broken inside of you. All you're focused on is what's in a state of disrepair. And when you fall, and we've all had that state of sleepfulness, of slumber, it's paralyzing. It's paralyzing. Because when I do my inventory of averos, right? They're steep, they're significant, and they've been around for a long time. And if that's what I'm dwelling on, it's totally paralyzing. That's sleep. But then when I switch gears and focus on the positive that I have, the positive that I've done, a good track record that I really do possess to accomplish great things, that awakening shakes me out of the slumber of paralysis and reminds me that if I have accomplished great things in the past, I can continue to accomplish great things in the future. David HaMelech writes in Tehillim, source number 5. This is so beautiful. Rabbi Nachman comments on this. So he says, David HaMelech says, Ani shachavti va'ashina. I laid down and I fell asleep. Hakitzosi. And then I woke up, ki Hashem yismecheni. Because Hashem supported me. And look, Rabbi Nachman says something so incredibly beautiful. Rabbi Nachman says, what is David HaMelech talking about? Ani shachavti va'ashina. David HaMelech is saying that sometimes when I did a personal inventory, sometimes I introspected, I looked at myself, I looked at my life, and David HaMelech says, I was so down on myself. I was so disappointed in myself. And I felt like such a profound life failure. That's Ani shachavti. I lay down. I lay down means I dwelled on the negative parts of my persona. Va'ashina, and I fell asleep. I was paralyzed. But then Rabbi Nachman says something amazing. He says, Hakitzosi. But then I was able to wake up. Why? Ki Hashem yismecheni, for Hashem supports me. Rabbi Nachman says something so beautiful. Rabbi Nachman says, Ki Hashem yismecheni is not external God, but internal God. Rabbi Nachman says Hashem in this context is a reference to the good that I possess within. I found my inner goodness. I found my inner beauty. I found my inner Kiddusha. And I was able to wake myself up. Look at the second paragraph in number 6. Aval be'emes ha'adam asur liya'ish atzmo. A person is not allowed to fall into the clutches of despair. Don't allow yourself to fall asleep with despair. Don't allow yourself to fall into the slumber of despondency. Don't judge yourself only by your failures and be rendered immobile to affect change. Rather, he says, shani misgaber umisorer mishinosi. I have to wake myself up in life. Ki ein ani miyaish atzmi adayin. I am not giving up on me. I'm not giving up on me. There's good in me. And that's not just like an aspirational idea. I could tell you. I could point out the good things I've done. I could point out the good things I've accomplished. I could point out the beautiful things that I have changed in my life. I have a good track record. I have successes. I have the tools to affect change in life, and I need not be rendered immobile by the slumber created by my failures. Ki kol hatov me'ito yisparach. Rabbi Nachman goes on. So it comes out of this, I don't know, for me, this is a life-altering piece. Because I think too often we find ourselves hovering in a Judaism and in a Yiddishkeit that is heavily laced with guilt. And it's all about guilt. Now, guilt is important, right? Because if you don't feel guilt for anything, then you're not fully cognizant of what you're doing. So a feeling of guilt is very important. The question is, do you live with perpetual guilt? Perpetual guilt generally is paralyzing and immobilizing. There's a place for guilt, but it has its space, and it's not everywhere. So says Rabbi Nachman something amazing. What now again, so remember, he's commenting on the Shulchan Aruch. So what is the Shulchan Aruch saying? And this is incredible. So what do you have to do every single morning? What do you have to do every single morning? So let's go back for just a second. Go back now to number 3. I'm giving you, right, Rabbi Nachman is giving us a brand new insight into this halacha. Yiskaber kari la'amod baboker la'avodas boro. So what's the halacha? It's interesting, right? What's the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch? Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Shihu ma'ora hashachar. Wake up. Don't spend your life sleeping. The first halacha in Shulchan Aruch, and this is incredible. What do you have to do when you wake up in the morning? What do you have to wake up in the morning? What do you do? All right, so we generally say Moda'ani, and what does Moda'ani say? Moda'ani lefanecha melechai v'kayom. Thank you, Hashem. Shechazarta bi nishmasi. You're giving me back my soul. Bechem l'rabbo. Great compassion, great gift. Rabba emunasacha. Great is your faithfulness. Your faith. Rabba emunasacha in what? Rabba Munasecha means great is your faith in me. If Hashem gives me another day of life, that means I have something to accomplish. If I'm just taking up space, Hashem probably doesn't need to give me life. If He's giving me life, that means there's something for me to accomplish. So therefore, again, the Shulchan Aruch says the first thing you do every single morning is wake yourself up. The first thing a Yid does every single morning is say, "I'm great. I'm great. I have a lot of work. I have a lot of things I have to correct. But I have a lot of good inside of me. And with that good, I could accomplish more good. And with that good, I know I have the tools to go ahead and fix that which is broken." That's how you start the day. You wake yourself up out of the slumber of failure. It is easy to sleep late. It's easy to sleep away days and weeks and months and years. Why? Because I feel so immobilized and so paralyzed and so helpless and sometimes even like disgusted at myself by the wrong moves, the wrong decisions that I have made. And where does that get you? Absolutely nowhere. Spending a lifetime wallowing in guilt and despair. So what does the Shulchan Aruch say? No, that's not what we do. That's not what we do. What does a Yid do? Yiskaber ka'ari la'amod baboker. Get up and get up strong and get up fast. And you wake up the dawn. Don't let the dawn wake up you. Shake yourself out of the slumber of guilt and remind yourself of your good, because not ignoring your guilt, when you remind yourself of your good, you will recognize you have the tools to affect dramatic change in life. That, says Rabbi Nachman, is the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch. And I'll show you something amazing. If you take a look at number 7, right, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but on Yom Kippur we read Sefer Yonah. Sefer Yonah, right? One of the most incredible parts of Sefer Yonah is what's happening. You know the story. Yonah's on the boat, right? He's running away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He gets on the boat, right? There's a violent storm. And what happens? So the Navi says, because Baruch caused a great storm, the sailors saw it, and the sailors started praying to their gods. So what happened? What did Yonah do? This is the end of Pasuk Hey. The Yonah yorod el yarkes yasfina, vayishkav vayeradem. Yonah lay down, he fell into a deep sleep. And actually, again, even if you don't get motion sickness, right? If that boat is being thrown one side to the other, how do you even fall asleep? And it's very simple when you understand what's happening with Yonah. Yonah was disgusted with himself. He was upset for a whole variety of reasons. He felt like a failed prophet. Klal Yisrael didn't listen to him. He's running away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's just upset. He's disappointed. He's disillusioned with himself. So what does he do? He falls into a deep sleep. Because that's what happens. When all you see about yourself is the negativity, and all you see about yourself are the shortcomings and the faults and the failures, that leads you to one thing: immobilizing slumber. So Yonah, who was running away from God, running away from Klal Yisrael, running away from himself, just goes down to the bottom of the boat and just falls asleep. And now let's bring this full circle. So now it turns out that perhaps this is the added dimension of shofar, of Yom Teruah, of Rosh Hashana. Right? The Rambam said that the entire avodah of Rosh Hashana is the shofar. That's the entire avodah of Rosh Hashana. And according to the Rambam, it's a spiritual alarm clock because I'm sleeping my way through life. Shofar wakes me up, and what should I do when I wake up? I should introspect, look at my deeds, and recognize that I matter. Perhaps there's another element of Shofar Hashana as well, which is that the avoda of Shofar is to get us to wake up, but to wake up and to see our good, to wake up and to see that which is positive, to wake up and to see our right. How many of us take inventory of our accomplishments, of our good, not to ignore our averos or our misdeeds. No, of course I have to get to that, but there's a time to get to that. There's a time and place for real introspection on our misdeeds and averos. But how many of us actually take the time to actually do an inventory? What did I do right this year? What did I do right? What went well? What are the good midos I possess? What makes me a good person? What makes me a good child, a good spouse, a good friend, a good Jew? And to take an inventory, right? Everybody has their journals about what they do wrong, but it's also good to have a journal about what you do right. And that, Rabbi Nachman says, is the entire avoda of Rosh Hashanah, is to awaken ourselves to see the good within ourselves. That's why Rosh Hashanah has no ashamnu, bagamnu, gazalnu, no chait, because that's not our job on this day. On Rosh Hashanah, there's a different job. We're going to get to that. But you have to understand, in order to do real tshuva, you have to believe that you have the tools to change. And in order to believe that you have the tools to change, you have to believe, you have to see the good that you've done. Because if I haven't done any good, then I'm a bad person. If I'm a bad person, then I don't have the tools to change. And if I don't have the tools to change, then tshuva is an exercise in futility. And if tshuva is an exercise in futility, sure, I'll show up, I'll do the lip service, right? I'll fall asleep during the drasha, right? And that's it. We'll just move on. I'll go through year after year after year after year. I think Rabbi Nachman is telling us deep down, the reason why a lot of us don't necessarily have an impactful or moving or cathartic Rosh Hashanah is because we haven't yet figured out how to actually change. Or maybe better stated, we haven't actually come to a point where I believe that comprehensive, cathartic change is possible. But the only way to tell yourself that it's possible is to see your positive track record. If I see all the good, that means I'm capable. I have tools. And if I have tools, there's no telling ultimately again what I could accomplish. So it's incredible. The same halacha that the Shulchan Aruch says, which is the way to start our day, is the same halacha that we use to start our new year. Every single morning, the halacha is Yiskaber Kari. The first thing you do before Negel Vasur, before washing your hands, even before Moda'ani, right? Because all before, the first thing you do is you sit up and say, I do not feel awake at all. But I am waking myself up. I am starting today by reminding myself, I am good. You don't have to say it out loud, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm worthy. I've accomplished. I have what to contribute. And yes, I have many, 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 many mistakes and averos that I have to rectify, but those do not obliterate the incredible and profound good that exists inside of me. So I'm starting my day by waking myself up and focusing on my good. I've got the tools to make a difference. I've got the tools to affect change. That's how the Jew starts every day, and that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah. Yom Teruah, that's it. It's all about the shofar. It's all about the shofar. Just wake up, remind yourself of the good, tell yourself that you are capable of affecting change. And if you could really believe that, because it sounds simple, you're like, oh, I can do that in 5 minutes. So that's I can come to shul 5 minutes or do this in 5 minutes, and I'm done. We know it's not 5 minutes. It's not 5 minutes. It's not even 5 hours. It's days, maybe even weeks of real work to actually make yourself believe in your own goodness. But if you could wake yourself up to that reality, then there is no telling what I could accomplish. And I'll just end. Look what the Taz says. And the Taz says something so beautiful. The Taz says, Yiskaber Kari, right? The Shulchan Aruch says, you should wake up like a lion. So there's a lot written about this, because in general, if you ever go to the zoo and you see lions actually get up very slowly. They're yawning, they're stretching. It's not like the most fierce waking up. That one, he doesn't wake up and start roaring. So the Taz says, what does it mean? This is incredible. He says, Iker Gvura Keneged Yetzirah. What does it mean to wake up like a lion? A lion doesn't fear anything, right? The lion is the king of the jungle. He doesn't fear anything. He says, Kain lo ya'ala ala adam more yitzro afshu takef mimenu. This is incredible. Taz says, sometimes I am afraid of my Yetzer Hara. I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of it. I really am. I'm profoundly afraid of my Yetzer Hara. And I'm afraid, and that's why so often, I'm even afraid to acknowledge what I've done, because I'm afraid that these things that exist inside of me are so powerful. So this is incredible. So the Taz says, what does it mean to get up like a lion? A lion fears nothing. You know what the Shulchan Aruch is saying? Don't be afraid of your brokenness. Don't be afraid of your mistakes. Don't be afraid of your missteps. It's okay. It's okay. We're human. We all make mistakes. Don't be afraid of it. But what's the key to not being afraid of your broken kite? So remember again, the Shulchan Aruch says, Yiskaber ka'ari lamo baboker, which means get up like a lion, get up fearless. Get up fearless. Don't be afraid of your broken kite. Don't be afraid of your mistakes. Don't be afraid of all of your life failures. But how do you do that? She'ehu ma'ora hashachar. The way to be like a lion and not be afraid of your broken kite is to wake yourself up out of your slumber, to focus on your good. If you focus on your good, you see that you have a track record. You have a capability to accomplish great things in life. If you could focus on your good, then you don't have to be afraid of your broken. If you think about this, right, we're amongst friends, we can be honest for a few moments. How much energy and time do we spend running away from our broken kite? So much time, right? I know things that are broken inside of me, and again, I have a whole like thesis about this, right? The thesis is titled "Why It's Not My Fault," right? That's how it goes, right? And then again, section 1. Whose fault is it, right? And we list the dominant characters who messed up my life, right? And then section 2, detailed synopsis or detailed analysis about how each of those people listed in section 1 are responsible for all the bad things that happened to me. And then in section 3, section 3 is titled, Why I Never Accomplished the Things I Wanted to Accomplish. See sections 1 and 2, right? And we have this whole thing, and it's exhausting because we're so afraid to confront our brokenness. And meanwhile, the first halacha in Shulchan Aruch says, Yiskaber, when the lion walks around, the lion fears nothing. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror. Don't be afraid to introspect. Don't be afraid to confront your brokenness. We all have it. Just some of us are more broken, some of us are less broken, but we are all broken. Don't be afraid to confront it. That sounds beautiful, but I'm scared. I don't want to confront some of the things that are broken inside of me. So what's the answer? She'ehu ma'ora hashachar. Wake yourself up. Wake yourself up. Focus on your good. Focus on your beauty. Focus on the fact that since you've accomplished good, you have so many tools in this world to affect change. And if you wake yourself up out of the slumber of sin, out of the slumber of the paralysis that is engendered by only focusing on that which is broken, if you wake yourself up, you focus on the good reminds me I have tools. I have abilities. That engenders a confidence. And with that confidence, I don't have to be afraid to confront my broken kite. And this is the avodah of Rosh Hashana. Just to wake up. Not to wake up to our sins, to wake up to our positivity, to wake up to the beautiful things that we've accomplished, to wake up to the power that we really possess. If I could do that on Rosh Hashana, that reminds me that I have the tools to affect change. If I believe that I have the tools to affect change, that gives me the confidence to face my broken kite. And if I could really face the stuff that's broken inside of me, then when I do Hashamnu, Bagadnu, Avinu Malkinu, Al Chet, it's not lip service. Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Let's turn it around. Let's create something different. And I'm ready. I'm ready and I'm confident. Why am I confident? I have a whole track record of wonderful, positive stuff that I've done. I'm like the lion that walks around confident, unafraid. Now that I'm unafraid, let's get to work. Let's fix that which is broken. Let's right that which is wrong. And let's pave the way for a beautiful new year. We should be Zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to experience a Rosh Hashanah of, I would say, wokeness, but that doesn't sound right? To experience a Rosh Hashanah of wakefulness. We should be Zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to shake ourselves out of the slumber of sin, to stop feeling so down on ourselves and to give ourselves a shkoyach for the good that we've done. We should be zocheh to feel the incredible and beautiful energy and positivity and encouragement and confidence that Rosh Hashanah could give us. And with that energy and confidence, we should be zocheh to fix the things that are broken. Enter into Yom Kippur, have our slate wiped clean, and enter into Tav Shin Pei Hey, ready to become the best version of ourselves. Have a wonderful evening.
So what's the mom message?